arguments against paper trails, like there's you have the problem of secrecy. Okay, so the first person votes, leaves the voting booth, and you go in and check the paper trail, and you know what the person voted. If you can do that after every person, so that there are other arguments, and they have been discussed very long without real results. But I think that the paper trail is really, it poses for me the question why we really want to do e-voting. If we have to find ways to make it verifiable in the exact way that it was before, then why do we do it at all? Just because we want to have the results faster? And this is really a non-reason. There are people much more into this than I and smarter than I who said that the voting has to happen manually on the evening of the election. And this doesn't happen with a paper trail. In the paper trail it happens when somebody comes along and says, okay, I don't believe you. Then it will be counted, and what if we find a discrepancy here? But that's not the point. The point is, okay, I already made my point. But we can turn it around. We could probably say, we make the transparent process, and we make a second process that is probably not transparent, that watches over the transparent process in an additional way. We could think about that. I'm not sure. That was just some idea when I made the images here.
I just wanted to add something that doesn't have to do with technology but with politics. The argument, as you mentioned, is always we need e-voting because then more people do vote. But I think people don't vote because of the politicians and because of the politics they're doing, because they think it doesn't make any sense to vote at all.
Well, of course, there's a German word. I don't even find the German word. This is an argument that tries to lure us away from the real problem, as you say. It's a problem of political culture. We have experienced in Austria that when something is really at the stake with the votes, then a lot of people go voting. If there is trust and confidence in politics, a lot of people go to the votes. Our minister for higher education wants to introduce e-voting to the election at the universities, the students' elections, because the participation there is traditionally low, around 30%. And the argument is exactly that we have a higher participation. But the point is that in the recent, 30 years, the possibilities to participate, to really participate in the university politically for the students have been, have decayed, have just been taken away piece by piece. Nobody wants to go voting because they don't have anything to say anymore. You vote some people and they can't influence anything. They can't participate. Why would I want to vote them? So turn that around, make a different political culture, and people will go voting again.
I have more questions.
Sorry, yeah. One sentence. If this was really the central argument, I would say pay everybody who goes to the vote 15 euro. You will have it's much cheaper than e-voting, and you will have an incredible participation. Really? No, that's not cynic. That's very real.
You have my vote for this.
Okay, sorry, I interrupted you.
No problem. I have more question for the audience, because supposedly it's full of IT security experts. Does anybody of you believe that an electronic voting can work at all? And I'd like to hear why.
From what point of view?
From whatever point of view you would like to take on this. I mean, because I think it's generally unfeasible as long as you want to have a free and fair election as defined in the initial talk.
Okay, there's people.
Can you elaborate on that? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, well, you put up your hand first, but that's how you used to. So, there you go.
Well, when I look at the voting process, I see that normal, regular, physical voting has its problems too. Yes. I mean, we see votes being fixed in democracies. I'm not speaking about third world or Africa. We see voting booths that are faked, manipulated, identifications that are manipulated. So nothing is really foolproof. And we have to accept that in any technical mechanism that we will adopt for voting, either physical voting, real life voting, or electronic voting, we will have problems, okay? What we have to do is we have to keep it marginal problems, marginal errors, okay? We have to manage the margin of error. We can't expect to have a foolproof technology or a foolproof technique or foolproof procedure for anything. Now, I believe that eventually we will come to the point in which we will have what we call trusted computing, in which we will be able to verify that the mechanism has not been tampered with, that the identification can be verified in a high, with a low margin of error, and eventually we will find ourselves. I'm not speaking about, you know, all kinds of science fiction writers who have conjured universes in which being corporeal is not the only way of being a human or being eligible to vote, okay? So we will have a different society in 50 years or so, and I believe that electronic voting will be part of that society.
So it's all about believing.
Absolutely.
I think that one thing that I haven't touched upon, and that's a very interesting point, is that of course you can build a voting system where the voter can, after the election, verify that his own vote was respected correctly. And I think that's wrong. I think that's from the principle of elections wrong. You cast your vote and it's gone. What if I'm an idiot? I go voting and I forget what I vote, or I deliberately forget what I vote, and I'm a troublemaker. So I want to prove my vote. I'll get there and say, no, I didn't vote that. And let's say 50,000 people do that. We can forget about elections that way. So it makes sense to let go of the ballot and have a system that you can trust that it's perfectly respected. And the only way to ensure that it's transparency. I'm a little bit with you in saying that we could come to a stage where we can find technological processes with different technologies that are actually verifiable for everyone. And then I'm with you. But I don't see that coming. Deep in me, I don't believe in it, but it could be. I was wrong before.
Well, I'm not saying that it's something that will happen soon, but yes. Okay, I'm not saying that it's something that can happen soon, but I think that we shouldn't just let go. We have to continue and to find ways to find verifiable architecture, verifiable computing environment in which we can eventually have secure e-voting.
I just have one comment on this. So I work in a domain where we produce software that has less than 10⁻⁹ probability of mistakes. So that's very low. So from a technical point of view, yes, we can build a trusted machine that makes barely no error. But the problem is in the process and in the scale you give to someone that fraud. Meaning that the paper ballot is, screwing up a paper ballot from the process point of view is very, very hard. What happens in Africa is they prevent people from voting, so people don't get voted, or they put a gun on their family and tell them, if my candidate is not winning, then your child are dying. And that's not in the process of voting, that's before or after we burn all the thing and we say, blah, we count. So for me, it's that scale that frightens me. Like said, one guy can fool everything. And I think that's not acceptable. So it's not a technical question to me.
While you carry the microphone to him, I think he really has a right to say something.
Yes, well, there's 1, 2, 3 hands that I've seen. Please make it short in a way, okay? So, if you can.
There are tons of things I could say about this. I tried to keep it short. First, your statement was, well, there are problems with the current paper system as well. Of course, yeah. There is no system that's totally foolproof. That's not what we're talking about here. The point is, and he brought it up in this talk as well, with paper ballots, if you really want to have an influence on a big election that has big influence on the society, you need a conspiracy of many thousand people working together to change votes in a way that makes sense to them. you know, that pays back. This is infeasible. This is totally impossible. You can't do that. You can't start a conspiracy with 50,000 people changing a vote. With electronic systems, regardless how trusted or super cool they are, what kind of chips you put into it, it's all quantum mechanics, and we have absolutely no way of seeing, and that's the point here, seeing what it does. And on the other hand, you only need probably one programmer that cooperates with you on changing the system, and you have the whole election fixed with one person. So let's say we are voting the next president in France. What is it worth? I would say France, you know, is probably at least 100 billion euros worth. So if you are the president, there are ways to spread money around. That's the amount of money you can spend. You take 1% of it and put it onto the programmer. If it doesn't program, if he doesn't cooperate, I don't know, you kill his kids or whatever. And pressure is being done in power systems. And then it's gone. So within electronic voting, you're endangering the whole concept. If you have electronic voting in a democracy, you can just stop being a democracy. That's the point. It's not something we have to think about how we can do it, probably then it might work. It's just the end. That's my opinion. So that's all I want to say.
Okay.
There was two more, and the break is... Please keep it short.
Thank you. I think we should just put one question of common sense. Do we need to change a process with known problems to a process with unknown problems?
It's a great question, yes.
That's very nicely short. No more? Okay. Unfortunately, well, it's getting interesting. I hope we continue this either tonight or tomorrow at the Meta Lab or at the Robo Exotica. I would like to thank Peter Pogathofer for this very nice talk. Thank you.